had taken that oath. I realize what that is.
There's some criteria that may or may not, it may or may not be required, but most likely it is gonna be required. So I wanna make sure that we are following all the steps and not, following anything up, so.
Yeah, if it's loud, it's.
I won't do work.
Yeah.
Let me know when you go live and I'll put control this thing.
Shouldn't that just open?
I've never messed with that.
Oh, here we go.
It's always been a Sarah thing.
The zoom in full screen, I think I did.
This will make her feel valuable.
Okay. On middle computer, unmute Zoom.
I know how to do that. She told me how to turn that on. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So which do I need? This one?
Anyway, yes, there's.
All right, I'll mute them both.
Okay,
I think that's
that's the one that's picking them up.
on middle computer unmute. So that's the one that's gonna be unmuted. And that one is, I don't know what it's doing.
I don't know which one she did what. We're
just-
active now though, right?
Yes.
Hawkins,
So I just followed the directions.
I'll hit that. And I gotta turn this upside down to make it real. I like it. Check this out. So now we can zoom on the screen and move this thing back and forth.
So this is the one that's up there.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Okay, so the car all the way around.
That makes me want to throw up.
Oh, try this.
I can't watch that when it goes. I can see it. I'm like, I can't look. Okay,
So we're good with this.
we're good.
Still throws us out on getting it. Locked us out when I was talking.
Oh, so you're gonna control it?
So you can control it this way. When you put it upside down, so when you go up, it goes down.
It's on the transmission,
So,
that hydrant is.
see there, if you hold it to the center, if you hold it center right there, that should be Dave right there, center table. And all the way to one side and go around right the other side. So if you go right, comes over to us. Well, yeah, but so when you look at the screen and go right, it goes right.
It goes left on that screen. but it's
Yeah.
right on that. Yeah.
Yeah, because this is upside down.
Yeah.
And I turn it over and it's still messed up. So it's just easier to do it this way.
At least 12 hours after they got used.
So,
So, you know, I would like to go to one of their meetings and just educate them on, I understand that's a hydrant, I understand it's an emergency, the house is on fire, you want to pour water on it, save lives, all that stuff. But this is what,
Who's this?
Something went
I'm
through.
gonna go check that car here.
I might have gone really fast. I didn't even get to stay for the whole game though, so that's the bummer.
So I think I did everything I was supposed
Yeah, looks like we're going. I'm gonna make sure we're streaming over here.
Okay.
to. We made it. I'm like, I don't want to be in charge.
We got there and the floor was like way across. Here is the bed walking over your side.
Oh, she gave me one as well. So
You, whatever you need.
so I just wanted to be like,
But not a lot of people.
they said there's something going on at the park.
I'm not trying to stand here.
That makes
She
sense.
drove down there. She was like, what are these cars for?
So yes, yeah. The field is like, so much fun, right?
Very expensive.
Okay.
The water bill? No, it's the power bill. For the entire street lights and all. How much was it for? Well, what are you looking at there, girl? He must be. You mean 5,500 or 55,000?
No, 55,000, each one's $11,000.
This is paid this fiscal year? This is amount due this time?
But this is April.
Uh-huh.
Okay. This is
So you're
not
okay.
the first month of the
It's because, well, yeah, it's because the system hasn't shut down last fiscal year to start this fiscal year.
Okay.
This meeting is always a little confusing. I should have told you that, sorry. It's always that first meeting of the year because it hasn't closed out the fiscal year from 21 to 22. So
Okay.
it'll all, before I pay bills, it closes it, and next month will look correct.
Okay.
I'm like, I didn't pay $55,000 in Walker Bill.
Yeah, that's
We
what I
paid
was like.
11,000 all year last year is what that's telling you. Don't do that to me, Kathy, when I'm already running late.
So you don't have it going out there, you know, right. And I get that if you go out in the car and you do it.
Yeah. Oh.
Jim come tonight? I never know about these.
He's not coming. He's not coming tonight. I agree.
You know, there's probably a handful of that direction. You know,
It's a lot of things.
We really do this now, like, what you're saying.
he never came back. Yeah, he was,
I mean, these are some of the things.
I think she might be.
I like your
I know you have that, right.
Normal, we can-
Insurance about the roof on
I did not yet, but let me email her while we're thinking of it tonight again, and I will let you know, or actually I can call her tomorrow, let me put that on the calendar for tomorrow morning.
Oh,
Ask
I
her
will.
again.
Yes.
Yes,
So Pat McGrath asked for the Zoom link,
we do.
so I sent it to him.
Okay, you got it for here, and we'll do it, awesome,
So
okay.
he's probably not gonna join till late because he's at a baseball game.
Okay, that sounds great.
First, I'd like to welcome everybody here. Thank you for attending our meeting tonight. We're gonna go ahead and get started, and if you would please all stand and pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Allison, will you please do roll call?
Dave Fruitlog,
Here.
Joe Boyd,
Here.
Kathy Brooks,
Here.
Lynn Norris,
Here.
Mark Cuddy.
Here. And our attorney, Pat Graff, will be joining us by Zoom. Shortly. All right, first item on the agenda tonight is our consent agenda. There are open meeting minutes from April 7th and April 19th. On the work session we had on the 19th, there was open meeting minutes from the meeting on April 22nd and closed session minutes from the meeting on April 7th and closed session on April 19th. So we had 5 different sets of minutes to approve. Sarah also sent out the end of the year financial statements, bills to be paid. And did anybody have any questions on the minutes or the financial statements? I want to compliment Allison on the minutes. They were well-documented meetings and appreciate all the effort you put into it. So if there are no questions, do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Make a motion.
We have a second?
I'll second.
All right, any last questions or discussion? Not Allison, roll call?
Joe Boyd,
Yes.
Kathy Brooks,
Yes.
Mark Cuddy,
Yes.
Lynn Norris.
Yes.
All right, next we have swearing in of most of our officials that were elected and the officials that we need to reappoint. So we're gonna start off with, our village clerk, Allison, and I will be swearing Allison in. All right, Allison, please repeat after me.
For the picture.
You can wait to end too, so. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and I will faithfully discharge
the duties of the office of village clerk,
the duties of the office of village clerk
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. Am I
You
next?
can just stay.
We're just gonna stay here.
Yeah. Okay, repeat after me. I, Dave Brutlot,
I, Dave Brutlog,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and I will faithfully discharge
the duties of the office of village president
the duties of the office of village
to
president
the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That worked out good.
Yeah.
Okay, we have 3 trustees that were elected that we are going to swear in, but I would also like to swear in Joe Boyd and Phil Morris at the same time. I've asked Joe and Phil if they would both stay on for another 2 years until our next election to fill the vacancies, and they both agreed. So I would like for someone other than Joe of the trustees to nominate Joe and Phil to the board.
I'll make that motion, that we nominate Joe Wood and Phil Morris to the board.
Okay,
I'll second.
so we have a motion and a second to name Joe Ward and Phil Morris to the vacancy positions. Any last questions or discussions? If not, Allison?
Joe Boyd,
Yes?
Kathy Brooks, Kathy Brooks,
Yes.
Mark Cotty,
Yes.
Lynn Norris.
Yes.
All right, so now if Allison, if you go ahead with the officers, the trustees.
Okay, we're gonna do it all together.
Okay.
In the middle somewhere.
Yep. You can't use it. Yep. Oh, yeah. 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 22. Just repeat after me. I, and state your name,
I, Lynn Norris,
do solemnly swear
Do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully discharge
the duties of the office of village trustee
the duties of the office of village trustee
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, we should be appointing our treasurer and our police chief every year. We sometimes fail to get it done, but we're gonna go ahead and do that tonight. Allison, if you wanna go ahead and swear in Sarah.
Do you have to vote on it? Or is it just
You're
something?
correct, that's a good point, yes. I would like to recommend Sarah Hill and Dale Sparks be nominated for the treasurer and police chief positions.
I'll make a motion to have Sarah and Chief Sparks continue their activities.
Thank Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, thank you, Lynn. Any last questions or discussions? Not Sarah, or Allison, roll call?
Joe Boyd,
Yes.
Kathy Brooks,
Yes.
Mark Cotty,
Yes.
Lynn Norris,
Yes.
Steve King.
Yes.
Now it's your turn.
Bill Morris will be here next week, and, our next meeting, and we'll swear him in at that meeting, so.
Okay. I, and state your name,
I,
Sarah Hill, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and I will faithfully discharge
the duties of the office of village treasurer and chief of police
the duties of the office of
village treasurer
chief of police.
to the best of my ability.
To the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
No trading jobs, guys.
All right, and I
I'm good at
wanna
it.
just thank everyone for stepping up and
Sign that.
helping out, with either trustee position or the other positions we have. I think we have a really good staff, and I think we've got a lot to get done over the next couple of years, and I think this is a good group to get that done, so, thank you to everyone. First item under my reports as village president are the revenue review. If you looked at the year-end reports that Sarah sent out, the revenues did exceed expenses, which is really good. The revenues are much less than what we budgeted, and so are expenses, and $76,000 of that was the COVID money. So that definitely makes us look a lot different than a normal year as far as how close the reality was to our budget. So overall, we did a great job managing the budget, I think. We should be putting some money in reserves at the end of the year, so I think overall it was a real good year. I did ask Sarah to start looking at sales tax receipts for our businesses, because one of the things that will be eligible for ARP money will be loss of revenue. So if Casey's normally pays $30,000 a year in sales tax, but they only paid $25,000 this last year, then we would show a $5,000 loss of sales tax revenue on Casey's. So Sarah's gonna start checking some of those to see if our, whether or not we had a loss of revenue from some of our taxpayers, because that will be eligible for ARP funding. The, COVID status, obviously, we are still under phase 4, masks are required indoors like this. We are, the state is making progress, the rates are going back down, we survived the current bubble, and, counts are looking a little better. COVID shots are available in Hudson again this Friday, for anyone that still is looking to get their COVID shot. There are plenty of vacancies Friday. It's the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, the single-dose vaccine. So if you know of anybody that's still looking to get a shot, make sure they know about the COVID shots here in Hudson. On the 5-year plan status, on the sewer project, we did get back the RFQ from our attorney. I've looked at it and I thought it looked good. I sent it to Kathy and asked her to look it over. And
It looks fine to me.
if she's fine with it, then we'll start sending it out to different engineering firms. And I'll get together the list of companies I got, send it to everybody before we send it out to the different firms. There's probably 5 or 6 firms that we'll be sending it out to. At least 5 or 6. So. Other parts of the 5-year plan, the sidewalk to Dollar General, we'll talk about that at a later point in our meeting. And I think Kathy's gonna bring that up.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna be a little gossip tonight.
You wanna do that now or later?
No, I said I'm gonna be a little gossip tonight,
Okay.
but I'll do it.
I didn't know when you wanted to start.
Oh, no, I can start anytime, but
Okay.
it's your time.
Okay. drainage, is still somewhat on hold. We're concentrating on the sewer study, trying to get that moving forward, and then, the sidewalk. And Danny does have a lot of sidewalk work being done this year. I don't know how much specifically was on the 5-year plan, but there is a lot of sidewalk repairs being done this year, and the new sidewalk will also get started for Dollar General. ARP money is the next bullet. It's the American Rescue Plan money that the federal government passed a couple months ago. We still have not heard anything from the state of Illinois on what it's gonna take for us to get any of the funding. So we're just waiting on the state right now to let us know what we need to do to start getting some of that money. For years, I think we've been talking about accepting credit card payments for water bills. And it's been kind of in limbo for a lot of years. Well, Sarah and Carol, met with a business that will do that. And, it would be no cost to the village. And so it's possible we could move forward with that. Joe, have you had a chance to talk with them about this?
Yeah, I talked to Carol and I went to the website. I mean, if it's not gonna be a big burden, you know, for you guys, then, I mean, I don't know why we wouldn't do it. I mean, it's no cost to us. The website lets you, you know, put in what you're gonna pay and stuff. I mean, it seems nice.
There's no cost.
There's no cost to us, there's a cost to the residents.
Yeah.
They're very easy to work with.
Like,
Yeah.
like when you pay your Amazon.
Yeah, but it doesn't cost the village anything,
It's I think Carol said 2.65%.
or a minimum of $1.
Yeah.
Mhm. So, it seems like a great plan.
If people wanna pay by credit card, it would allow that anyway, so.
Okay, so, anybody on the board, I think it's within Joe's okay to make a motion then to approve this.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to start accepting,
I'll pay.
all
All
pay,
paid.
for credit cards billing at the waterhouse.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
All right, do we have any additional questions or discussion on the motion?
I have one. On this, if the resident pays this by credit card, do they just phone it in? I mean, they call you, give you the credit card number and,
They could do it that way, they can do it online, they can come to the office, and we can do it through the window,
okay, and then all pay will set up the online?
everything,
Dave, I also have a question. Do we use the same system for ordinance violations?
Yes, that, actually, we talked to them about that. We absolutely can, I can share that with you. It can pay building permits, anything can be used through this, so. There will be a small fee, just like the others, but yeah.
Okay, so why don't you and Mark get together then and decide whether we wanna do it for place payments also. Then we can, you know,
We could also go
tackle
on.
that next month then.
Yeah, it could all be done through that, all the same program.
Okay, do we have any additional questions or information on this?
Yeah, just a question on it. So when we move to this, we'll advertise it somehow so that citizens will know about it, I take it.
Mhm.
We also put a reminder that they can have direct, debit,
Yes.
ACH, you know, from the bank.
Yes, which is great,
And I don't, I mean, that's how I've done it for many years.
yes.
And maybe just as a reminder that it is an option out there.
Right, and we do tell everybody that when they call, because it does make things a lot easier in the office too, when people do that. But yeah, I can add that to this too, just as another reminder, put it in the quill or whatever.
Can you put that actually on the water bill when we mail it out?
Yeah, there's a limit of words, but I think we could figure something out, kind of,
Somehow,
Mhm.
Or one month and then
Yeah.
the next month.
for sure.
Good questions. Any additional discussions? Are we under any obligation to keep this for 6 months or a year if we can cancel when we want to?
Absolutely, yeah, no contract at all.
One last question. Will they have a scanner? They were in this one?
Yeah, we'll have one that we can send out through the box at the window, and they can take care of it that way.
Okay, we have a motion and a second then. Do we have any additional discussions or questions? Not, Allison, roll call?
Joe Boyd,
Yes.
Kathy Brooks.
Yes.
Steve King,
Yes.
Mark Cotty,
Yes.
Lynn Norris.
Yes.
Okay, my next bullet is the appointment for replacement police chief. I'm gonna put that after all the trustees' reports, so that'll come up later. At our last meeting, I brought up the discussion on streaming. I'm gonna wait till all six trustees are here and make a decision on whether or not we want to continue to stream meetings. It's been handy during COVID, do we wanna do this as a permanent thing, or do we wanna quit doing it when COVID restrictions are lifted to bring people back up here? So I'll pen that discussion. Okay, I also wanted to note that on the April 7th minutes, there was a discussion that I started on responsibility for IT responsibilities and for updating the website. And at that time, Jim volunteered to take over coordination of IT responsibilities. And we haven't picked an area for sewers yet. And in the minutes, I put that we would vote on it this meeting, but I failed to get it on the agenda for this meeting, so it will not be voted on tonight. So I will try and get it on the agenda for next meeting so we can finalize that. So I didn't read the minutes soon enough. Okay. We'll move on to our next area, which is Danny Engel, who's doing a report on water, public property, street and zoning tonight.
First off, I'd like to thank Tyler, which I do quite frequently, for kind of being my right-hand man on my projects. So he's been a big help the last month. Definitely myself, I think all of us probably here agree that whenever we need help with something, we seem to go to Sarah. So she has definitely helped me a tremendous amount with administrative and things like that this last month. So definitely thank her. Thank Kathy also. Phil, kind of the first half of the month, and the second half I think he's been fishing, but for just talking through some ideas and questions I have. Then I think I had mentioned it, or Jeff had mentioned it before, that we've got all the paperwork completed for Logan Softly. He'll be graduating here in a month to help do miscellaneous mowing and weed whacking and things like that. So he signed up. And while I'm on the thank you podium, I'd like to thank Mark Cotty and Joe Boyd for doing an excellent job stacking their sticks. They were easy to pick up, so thanks for that. I know I couldn't resist that with Joe, since he said make sure I had something for me this month. So in water, so my first failure in water, sorry Ed, I forgot to bring over the usage. It's $3 million and change, and I think Sarah maybe found the best news that she was gonna maybe email out to you guys about our.
Yeah, I didn't get an email because I had to leave early today, but the water loss, we paid $19,000 last year for water purchase. Month, and we paid $11,000 this month, so that's huge. So we're on the right path.
So you can get a hold of me somehow, and I'll get you the usage if you really so desire to know the $3 million and change that it was. So it was brought to my attention by Phil in a meeting that you guys had, that Chuck Woodworth from the Illinois Rural Water Association was able to come and finally, I called him. He already had an appointment for us. We went around and we found, I think it was 5 hydrants that were on. So it was good to find those, get those off. We have 3 hydrants that are kind of a question mark. So I'm gonna work on trying to flush those out a few times and see if that'll help, make those be in a better situation. And we got one definite possible, leak. And it's not obvious on the surface of the ground, but, through seeing what he does to find them, I can definitely see how and why he's pointing to a leak in that area. So that is, at the top of my list to try to, get completed here this week, hopefully. Again, with Sarah's help, started a spreadsheet on hydrant maintenance and gate valve maintenance. We also, Sarah and I met today with, was it 4 folks from the City of Bloomington Water Department. Bob Yale, who lives in town here, Jill Mays, who is the lab manager at the lake, Brett Lucian, who's the water operations manager, and
Kevin.
White something, I
Yeah.
can't remember, I'm not that good at names. So it was, I talked to Bob about, liking to have a few folks on speed dial if, I have some questions, and he was beyond willing to set up this meeting, and we did, and got, Sarah and I on a path to have a good checklist, so that anybody will be able to come into the water house and see what you maybe need to do in different water situations. In the parks, Tyler and I finished, putting some more metal on the dugouts. We ordered the rest of the metal that, we need to finish trimming those out, and all the ball field game equipment, the sprayer and the liner for the chalk, we kind of fixed those up a little bit, so they're operable at this point. In the streets, Patrick Meyer, our new engineer, and Dave Fogel from McLean County Asphalt. Patrick set up the meeting between the 3 of us. We went around and looked at some of the areas we're gonna be doing the hot mix asphalt at, and so we get a good understanding of what we wanna do, so that was nice to get that going. We also got the IDOT approval back from the MFT resolution, so we're clear to start the MFT projects. I'll be working on that, and I've got a few drainage projects that were high on the list, and start working on those too as time allows. In the zoning world, there's a foreclosure that I emailed about trying to get that property in compliance. And I believe Pat McGrath is working on two of other properties that have been ongoing, continuing nuisances. And I had just talked now with Tom, and he's gonna start helping out again with reminding people it's grass mowing season and so forth. So I think that's all I have that's not already on the agenda somewhere else.
Did you, when you had the meeting with the water people, did you guys set up a schedule for like the, flushing the hydrants and turning the gates?
No, I can do that, but I've got, from the meeting, we got a contact list of support, and they pointed us to several online documents for questions, as well as they gave us their emails and cell phones too, and some folks from the EPA that would maybe help us if we had questions on certain policies and procedures.
And that, we're gonna make a spreadsheet though, for the hydrants and the
Yeah.
gate valve, so we'll have like a spreadsheet where he'll put the date that he checks it and everything, so that's something we do without them.
That's something I've also started to do this month with Tyler, is when I go and do a Julie locate, we check their water pit, if there's a hydrant at that address or a gate valve, check that, and just general, is there anything here that seems suspicious? I got a spreadsheet set up, and to help keep track of, have we seen any problems there that can be added to the repair list or maintenance list.
Anyone else have any questions for Denny? My compliments to Denny, you've been put in a difficult situation here for a little while, and we think you're doing a great job, so. If there's things we can do to help you, and, you know, we make sure you let us know, we'll do our best.
What was the name of the one you added to that list?
Kathy, can you turn your PA on?
What was the name of the guy that you said you added to the list for like mowing and stuff?
Logan Softly.
Thank you.
All right, does anyone have any additional questions for Denny? If not, we'll move on to the village marshal, Dale Sparks.
My list is as big as his. He took on a big responsibility, right? I did want to thank Denny, because he and his because Tyler helped you? Set up the sign, Logan helped you. Set up and picked up the signs for the garage sales. I do want to report, I don't think we had the numbers that we've had in the past. Traffic was phenomenal. It really worked well. A lot of the citizens were working with me, keeping people parked to the right side. And there's only one suggestion I'll have, and I'll talk with Denny on that in the future. But that went exceptionally well. Other than that, this last month, we've had several investigations, and have one continuing yet. But overall, the business is continuing. Nothing really remarkable to say, but we've got things in hand.
Okay, does anyone have any questions or comments for Dale? And I wanna thank you for all your extra work on the garage sale stuff. Went real well from our perspective, so, thank you. Okay, Civil Defense Director Jeff Thomas is not here. No, I heard sirens today. I assume all the sirens went off at 10 that we're aware of.
It did here in the center.
Okay. Next, we have citizens hearing. Did anyone sign up for the citizens hearing?
No.
Okay. Then we have reports of standing committees. First is finance, budget, contracts, and employees, trustee Lynn Norris.
Yep, I just got a couple of things I've been working on, so I was gonna update everybody. Garbage bid opening date has been set. Is it, do you know if it's on the website yet, Sarah?
It is not, but I'll reach out to him on that.
But it's set for Tuesday, June 22nd at 1. We've got the, call to bid going out in the quill. It should be going out this week.
Yes, that's what I've got it for.
And then, so we'll have that for the July meeting to vote on the contract. Spending policy that Pat's been working on, I just got back a draft of it today. That's gonna replace our purchasing manual. So I will send a copy to everybody to review, and then we can talk about it next month. The Unit 5 garage that we lease, the shed and roof, or the roof and siding, Sarah's still waiting to hear back from insurance to see if the roof is covered under that. Siding, Dale found out by talking to some of the Unit 5 maintenance employees that Unit 5 may be able to, the maintenance crew may be able to put the siding on for us if we purchase it. So I reached out to the head of maintenance over there, and he said, yep, absolutely, they have the crew for that, and he's been trying to get the board to do something about it for a while. He probably doesn't know that, that's our responsibility. So I told him that I would present it to the board, find out the cost, because we can actually get our company can get the siding for the village. So I don't have exact number on it. It should be roughly $3,000. I'll have exact numbers next month once we can get measurements and call, because siding has gone up. But original estimate to do siding installation was $8,700. So that would save quite a bit if we're just buying the siding and Unit 5 will put it up. So I'll get more numbers for next meeting. We can discuss that. Sarah and I talked about the website, getting some things updated on that, and we'll continue to do so until it's done. And then same with the IT guy, we talked about, did you talk to him, Sarah?
I did, I haven't been able to meet with him, he's in the middle of finishing up everything for school and starting a new job, but yes, I will continue that with him as well.
Okay, just so you're aware, we'll probably have to bid the cost for the siding,
Just to get the siding?
just so that it doesn't look like we're showing favoritism to your company.
We wouldn't get
Exactly.
anything for it, it's just we're getting,
I understand
Oh,
that,
gotcha.
but I'm
Yeah,
just saying,
that's fine.
this, we may have to go through that
Okay.
bidding process, just so that, it doesn't look like we're, showing favoritism. because we're on the
anything
board.
about that.
So, I'll have to find out from Pat on
Okay.
that, so.
Sounds good.
The cost is probably around 3,000.
That is a rough estimate, well, I can have exact numbers next time.
We're waiting on insurance on the road.
On the,
Okay. All right, does anybody have any questions for Lynn?
Yeah. When you get, I'm assuming you'll get bids for the signing, if you could email me the spread,
Mhm.
because what I'm trying to do is a number of projects the village has in process is TIF related,
oh, okay.
and I was going to call Gwen and have her write out the ordinances for the TIF expenditures.
Okay.
And that actually would be one of them. And like, I'm just trying to consolidate this all down, so I just give her a list of things, and generally speaking, it cannot be more than a dollar amount. I don't think it has to be exact.
Okay.
So if you could send that to me, I would have her do I'll call her and find out if we can do, this is the range, say not more than whatever the top one is.
Okay.
So that once we do review and vote on it, we can do the ordinance then and get the ball rolling, because I'm assuming 30 days we'll hear something from the insurance company.
All right, any other questions for Lynn? Thanks, Lynn. We look forward to finding out what we do on garbage and what that's gonna look like, so. All right, next, we have Street Department Trustee Phil Morris. Phil is not here tonight. And I think Danny covered most of what Phil would have brought up, so we'll go on to Kathy Brooks, Trustee for Ordinance and Zoning.
It's me. I've got a list and a half, and I do not mean, I've got a list and a half, and I do not mean to step on anybody's toes, because I just made a grand list. But the first two things I like to do is the appropriations ordinance. Basically what it is we voted for the budget. We voted for the budget last month, and this is the ordinance for it that goes to the county. So I'd like to make a motion to vote on the appropriations ordinance.
The number's 1350.
Thank you.
I think everybody, and we have a second, everybody got a copy of that in the email with the monthly statements from Sarah. That is the same every year, I believe, change the dates, and that's about the only difference, so.
Yeah.
So we have a motion and a second on the appropriations ordinance for our budget. Any additional questions or discussions? Not Allison, roll call.
Joe Boyd,
Yes.
Kathy Brooks,
Do you have a question?
I don't see anything on it, so I don't know, I should vote on it.
Just abstain then.
Kathy Brooks,
Yes.
Steve King,
Okay.
Mark Cotty,
Yes.
Lynn Norris.
Yes.
Okay, the second thing I have is the vote on the TIF authorization for the Prairie View Homeowners Association. Ordinance,
That's the funds that we
the $1,500.
discussed and voted on last meeting.
That's correct.
And this is just the ordinance that the TIP people prepared that we have to vote on.
Right, that's why I have such a, like I said, a long list today, because for TIF, you gotta get basically a consent, then you get the TIF ordinance and you vote on it in order to access the funds.
Okay, so you wanna make that a motion?
No, I need someone else to make the motion, please.
I'll make the motion that, we authorize by ordinance the, $1,500 that we had approved, last board meeting for the, Prairie View Homeowners Association Fund.
I'll second it.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve the TIP ordinance to provide a grant of $1,500 to the Prairie View HOA. Is there any additional questions or discussions?
That number is 1351.
The number's 1351. All right, let's do a roll call. Allison?
Joe Boyd,
Yes.
Kathy Brooks,
Abstain.
Steve King,
Abstain.
Mark Cuddy,
Yes.
Lynn Norris.
Yes.
And this falls into, the mayor's gonna have to vote to get a four-person majority. You've got three,
But for
you got 3 yeses and
Okay.
2 abstains.
Dave
Alright.
Log.
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm not sure that this one would call for 4 persons. I would have to clarify that with Pat.
I mean, you seem pretty hard line on that to me, but I'll concede that.
So we have the 4th if we need it. So, okay, you wanna go on, Kathy?
Okay. I wanted to bring up to the board, sometime in the distant past, the board discussed, purchasing or trading for the property next to the library to extend basically the parking for the ballpark. I would like to have a short board discussion on what the status of that is, if it's something we're actually interested in, or if it's something we wanna just put on the back burner indefinitely. I believe it was originally mentioned also somewhere in the 5-year plan, in the planning commission, purchasing property.
Purchasing that piece of property?
I don't have the plan itself with me, but it seems that my memory is saying that, but I still think it should, just a short discussion on the board, if we actually think that's a good idea or not.
Did anybody say what they wanted it for?
It's for a parking lot for the ball fields. There's the 2 fields there,
Yeah.
and whenever there's games, they line up the streets forever.
Yeah.
And that's sort of dangerous for the
Yeah.
short people.
Gotcha.
I'm just looking on Google Maps, I mean, I wonder if we can expand what's there, it looks like there's space to the west a little bit, I know there's a tree and then the shack, but, and then, I guess it's a pretty good drop off, like from the field, looks like there's quite a bit of space, like between the field and the road, but that kind of drops off, doesn't it?
Yeah, from Pearl Street toward the north field, yeah, that's kind of a little slopey ground
Yeah.
there, more so than, to the west and south of that tree would be probably a better area for expansion on the current property.
Yeah, that doesn't look like that would be enough for like a whole lane, so I'm not sure how you'd do that, but I guess my comment would be, I'd like to understand if there's land we already own that we could put a parking lot on rather than try to buy the one across the street.
Are you guys talking about behind the, picnic area and the playground?
It's not behind, it's, again, looking at the map, it's right next to the parking lot, but it's behind the Lions Club.
Yeah, behind the.
Yeah, just to the
Yeah,
west of the parking lot.
that's-
I mean, there's some space there, I
Right
don't know.
behind the pavilion.
Yeah.
And,
I mean, you wouldn't have to go that far, cause the swing sets are right there, you know, but I don't know how many more spots we could get there, or what our goal would be. I'm just saying we should look at that maybe before we, go buying the other land.
well, that's why I brought it up, it's for discussion.
Yeah,
You know, we probably should start looking at some sort of solution, because when like I said, when there's ball games, it's exceptionally crowded within a 2-block area.
Who owns the property now?
The township,
you said there was a possibility of trade, what would we,
I don't know.
oh, gotcha. That's up for discussion.
Yeah,
I didn't know if it had already been discussed at one point.
it had been brought up,
Gotcha.
but there wasn't any real discussion on it, but it's still a bug in my mind. Pardon the expression.
West Street toward the ball diamonds is pretty flat, isn't it? Or maybe there's a ditch there?
There's a pretty substantial ditch between West Street and then that area.
We'd have to put a culvert in and have to put maybe in angled spots or something there though too.
Yeah,
I don't think it costs
the township lot there by the library, that might be as, just a simple conversation with Michael Grady and or Jeff Emmert to ask them if they have a problem, if the conditions are appropriate, to have overflow parking there on the weekend, if they have an objection to that.
They have been asked in the past, and the answer was that would be fine as long as it wasn't too muddy. Because they didn't want cars going in there and tearing up the grass.
Okay, but we'd have to build some sort of access lane, because as I remember, there isn't anything to where you can just drive without doing the.
No, there is an entrance to
There
that
is?
lot, yes.
Okay,
Right by West Street.
Nearer West Street than the library, off of Pearl.
Oh, off of Pearl.
Yes.
Okay. So it's actually sort of around the corner from the,
Intersection.
yeah, okay. Okay,
And it's also possible that we could start having people park around the fence on the north field. There's an area there you can drive up and park by the fence if they needed to, if they wanted to sit in their car and watch the games.
okay, yeah, like I said, we just, when we have games, we have a sort of a parking issue.
It's a good issue to have.
Yeah, better to have that than nobody. Okay, so that's still on the back burner, we need more information.
Well, I will talk to the township just to make sure that we can park there if we need it for overflow parking,
Okay,
if it's dry enough.
okay, and then you said, well, you said behind the fence, will the soil can it support that?
On, where Joe was talking, or
No,
on the township lot?
No,
I was talking about a different area on the north field, parking north of the fence, the outfield fence. We've done that a few times, just 2 or 3 times since I've been here, for people to park there.
between the fence and West Street?
Pardon?
Between the fence and West Street?
No, between the fence and Pearl Street.
Okay.
I'll show you, James.
Yeah, driving up the drive and, yeah.
Yeah, but would the, like I said, would the ground sustain?
Well, again, I guess I would say that would not be a preferred thing to do, and, but in dry conditions, it'd be all right.
Okay. The next thing I have is the civil defense room, and I know I'm stepping on somebody's toes here. I don't know who, maybe you.
Well, I know Denny looked. Wasn't that you that I talked to out there, or was that Jeff? No, I've forgotten who I talked to.
Well, Sarah and I were talking about that again, maybe with Kathy was around, maybe that, there is a doorway that accesses from the office to that room. And the last kind of plan of my knowledge was maybe just, making sure that the power is disconnected down to that room, which I think it might already be. And just putting concrete blocks to block in that access down there to that to help keep the mold and et cetera from coming up into our role.
I think you said that to demolish it, it would be tricky because the beams go all the way through.
Yeah, the concrete is tied into the footing and the foundation of the building. So I'm a little concerned with starting to demolish the concrete, that's not going to start to cause issues with the foundation and footings of the Waterhouse building itself.
Well, what about filling it in and putting block at the door? There's, you can fill it with, pea gravel, I think is what I was suggesting before, because it's relatively cheap. So that we could fill it and then literally put block, permanent block out.
Yeah, I don't know if you, Dennis, you can put that on your list to maybe price that out, of how much it would cost. I mean, I guess you'd make a hole in the roof and pour pea gravel in, is that feasible?
Where there's a will, there's a way.
At least think about it, maybe see how much it would cost to buy that much pea gravel.
Yeah, I mean, that would be relatively cheap. It would just be, could we get it in there, to do that? So, yeah.
The only thing that scares me about it is it would collapse at some point, right? I mean, it just.
Yeah. It might actually be better not disturbing the concrete roof.
Well,
If we would cut a hole in it, then that would allow water into it, and that might cause a different set of problems.
well, it's pretty wet down there now. That's why there's a mold issue. It's seeping.
Yeah.
We could also just put a fence around it, so that fell in, nobody would have to be on top of it or something. I mean, that would be another option then.
Hey, can you also get a price on what it's gonna cost to block the door off?
Yeah.
With blocks on the inside?
Yeah,
that part would be
at least something like that and the floor, because right now they're jerry rigging around the stairs that go down to it. And then the door is this warped wood nasty thing, and the mold is starting to creep out and, nobody should have to work in that. That's just nasty. Okay, onward. The police garage we've already discussed. The Dollar General access sidewalk. Denny, what's the status of that? Sorry.
The status of the Dollar General sidewalk is, you guys giving me the green light to proceed on that. So, the next step I need is confirmation of, we have money allocated from some source to, work on that. The actual next step in the phase of it would be to have the right-of-way surveyed. Patrick Meyer, our engineer, can get that accomplished. Then we need to, he can draw up a plan that needs to be submitted to the county, for approval before construction can begin. So before the construction can begin, I didn't want to get a survey going without being told that there was funds via TIF or in our account or budget for doing that, so.
Okay, my understanding at this point is there are funds have been budgeted in the appropriations bill as well as budgeted into the TIF for that.
I think it was an oversight on our part. I think we went ahead and set up the funding, but I don't think we ever gave Denny the word to go ahead and start with the engineering work on it.
Right, and Danny, if you get me an estimate on the engineering and the initial steps, I will get the TIF ordinance ready for next month.
Okay, I believe, I had asked Patrick that, and I think he was like, that was maybe a $3,000 or $4,000 bill to do the survey and develop a plan, but I can confirm that with him.
Something in writing would be nice.
Yeah, I can have him.
They're gonna want that. Danny's already done the next one. Danny's done the one after that. Danny's been busy. I am so proud of Danny. He accolades galore. The next thing I have is the sidewalk at Broadway and Franklin for the burnt house. Should we try and make that the homeowner's responsibility to replace that in order to bring it up to code? And are we responsible for removing the old brick that's half buried and half size?
So to give you history on that, so in the subdivision, if there's an empty lot, someone buys it, puts a house up, and if that's the side of the street that the engineers designed the sidewalk to be on, that's the homeowner's responsibility to install the sidewalk on the village right of way. So, as I've met with the homeowners there, and as they're working on getting stuff ready to go for getting a building permit to build a new home there, talking with them on Broadway Street, there is an old brick sidewalk. So we were kind of talking about what's the need for that. That's a sidewalk on their lot only, so it's kind of a sidewalk to nowhere. There is no continuous sidewalk on Broadway Street. There's another lot or two farther south that there is some out of code compliance sidewalk. But again, it's not a continuous sidewalk that leads anywhere. On Franklin Street, as I've talked about numerous times, on the north side of Franklin Street, there's a sidewalk that's continuous from Casey's to the cemetery that's in bad shape, and that's on the MFT list to fix. On that particular lot with the house in question, that is a narrow sidewalk that's cracked, broken up, and not in good shape. It is only on their lot, so it's again a sidewalk to nowhere. So my question is, do you want me to take out the sidewalk and get rid of it, tell them they need to do it? To me, it doesn't seem like it should be left there in the condition that it's in, as they're going to be re-lot grading and building their new home. Or is it in some future plan to have the sidewalk on both sides of Franklin, on that side of South Broadway, that we would want to have them tell them that they have to put that piece of sidewalk back? I'm sure that would meet some resistance from them, as there is no other sidewalk anywhere from their lot. I would understand the question from their perspective of, why do I need to put this sidewalk in when there's a sidewalk to nowhere? So that's a question that I have for you guys. How would you like me to proceed on that?
Can I jump in on part of the answer to that question? From a legal issue standpoint, if once that sidewalk's put in, maintenance in a safe conditions our responsibility. So if the sidewalk as it presently sits is in an unsafe condition, it'd be, from a liability containment standpoint, we should either close the sidewalk by posting barriers and signs that say sidewalk closed with a plan to replace or remove it, or just go ahead and remove it. Because with what I understand to be the description of it, I would suggest it presents a liability risk to the village from a slip, trip, and fall standpoint as it currently sits.
My unsolicited 2 cents on that would be to confirm with Pat that we in town, we have either no sidewalk on either sides of some street, or we have sidewalk on one side of the street. If we are moving forward with making the north side of Franklin, which is currently a continuous sidewalk, that we're going to get that all up to code compliant. I don't see a need to have a sidewalk on the south side of Franklin, and we again don't at this time don't have anything really on South Broadway. So my recommendation would be for us to take out the sidewalk and have them lot grade the area, and the problem is over.
Danny, why don't you talk to the homeowners and tell them that's what we want to do, take that sidewalk out and make sure they don't have any concerns since it's on their property, and then they should be able to grade it in when they build the new house, the replacement house.
The sidewalk is currently on the right of way. So
Oh, it is on the right of way.
It is in the right of way.
So it's not a homeowner issue then.
They would just have that part of the regrading of the lot anyway, so.
So, okay, it's in bad shape, let's take it out, get it out.
Not a problem.
Okay, I just have actually one more thing. The spreadsheet issue Denny's already taken care of. Denny I don't know if he brought up the hydrants. near the Methodist church. It's on a, what's that called,
Transmission line.
transmission line. And it's being accessed by the fire department, which has a potential for causing a catastrophic water issue for the entire village. Danny, you wanna
We
explain
can
it?
define catastrophic water issue.
Draining the water tank,
Yeah,
boil order through the town.
yeah, it could have a boil order for the town.
Right.
Yeah.
That type of catastrophic. Danny, you wanna explain that?
So I kind of explained this to Kathy and Dave and Phil, and in my conversation with those three was that I would like to, with maybe Joe, the water trustee, or Dave, to go to a fire department meeting and inform them on the use and what happens when that hydrant is used. So that hydrant at the Methodist Church is on the transmission line. So it's more designed, in my opinion, for flushing the line. So when that line that hydrant is on supplies the water tower. So the valve in the water tower takes, or the water house takes pressure to operate. If the pressure is not at a certain level, it won't operate correctly. Thus, it won't fill the tank. So if the fire department is using that hydrant, then that incapacitates our ability to fill the water tower. So if they are using that hydrant and another hydrant to put out a fire, which is only going to be in a situation that's in that neighborhood, then that would not only drain the water tower, but it would also incapacitate the ability to fill the water tower, thus emptying the water tower, which would then result into a boil order for the whole town. And when we redid the water tower and had it empty a few years back, it took between 8 and 12 hours to fill the water tower back up to have it full enough for operation. So I'm not sure that all the current staff and officers at the fire department fully understand how that plays into the system on our side of things. So I'm not coming at it from my perspective of that hydrant can't be used at all, but I would just like to have open education as to why that is. A possible solution would be, we have distribution mains in that area, would be to put a new hydrant in that area, inform them of that, and that hydrant would then be used for fighting fires. This hydrant at the current Methodist church location, the gate valve to that hydrant could be shut off, so it would then only be accessed through someone that had a key to the gate valve.
And I brought that up because there's always, you have to plan for the worst and hope for the best, and it just scared the crap out of me when I found out that was on the transmission line, because that could, like I said, it could have a catastrophic effect on the entire village. And if we know about it, we need to do what we can to eliminate that risk.
We can reduce it, I talked to a few of the firemen about it, and, is it worth putting a boil order on the whole village to save somebody's life? You have to look at it from that side too. It was there and it could be used, so possibly putting in a new hydrant, right across the street or right next to it might be a good alternative.
I think that's probably a good alternative, and it doesn't do the gate valves, whatever. And does it paint that a different color or put in a different structure, so that it's available if half the town's burning, you wanna be able to get to it, but if it's one house, we don't. Yeah.
Well, if that's the only hydrant, though, you'd have to use it.
Right, but like I said, we would need to put another hydrant in
for that house fire that we just had.
Well, that's-
It was
that's what-
another village that came in, you know, as backup and hooked to it and started pumping from it.
Right, which they wouldn't know.
Right. So,
Yeah, and there's nothing to distinguish it from a standard fire hydrant. Which is why I think putting in a new fire hydrant and then putting a whatever, where you can get to the valve, but unless it's a truly catastrophic fire, you can't get to that hydrant to.
well, the first thing will be, I'll go with you, Danny, if Joe doesn't want to, or Joe and I will both go with you to one of the trustee meetings and talk to him. So
I just think
let's start with that.
some education and some open lines of communication would be a good start. Like I say, I would agree with what Dave said. If you have to make the choice between 1,800 people have to live under a boil order for a day or two, and sacrifice someone's life, that's a pretty easy choice to me. But understand if it is avoidable, I think it's somewhat our responsibility to make sure that the fire department does have a fire hydrant available to use. So,
Can we get a cost for that, just so we know, and if it's not too much, then maybe we just do it or something? Maybe that could be TIF funds.
Maybe. But yeah, it's just, like I said, myself, it was like, something that's catastrophic, you wanna be able to access it, because draining the water tower is a minor issue if half the town's on fire. But, you know, barring life and death situation,
We might be able to come up with a good alternative.
right. And that's actually all my lists today. Thank you, everyone, I appreciate, and I apologize to anybody whose toes I stepped on, I didn't mean to, I'm going through making lists. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Good topics to bring up. Next is Police Department Trustee Marcotti.
I do not have a list like yours, Kathy.
I worked on it.
I just have a couple comments to make. Thanks to the police chief Dale and also Denny for the garage sale and how smooth it went. It was really done well. The signage worked well. Dale's enforcement of the parking, working with the residents. I think we only had to write one ticket, parking ticket, which speaks real well that, you gained compliance and everything moved well. It was done really, really well this year. So thanks for the good planning for that. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Mark. Does anybody have any questions for Mark? Now, we'll move on to Water Department Trustee Joe Boyd.
I just wanted to vote on the IRWA membership. I talked to Denny before the meeting a little bit, it looks like maybe they didn't find a leak, that otherwise would be hard to find. So, for $300 a year, it seems like a good deal to join this, and they gotta come out once a month, right?
something else I forgot to mention about that is they have, so there's other benefits, like if we re-sign up for the membership, which we were at one point in the past, they have equipment that he spoke of to me that they loan out various water equipment, metal detectors, things to help in a short-term need. So I'm not sure exactly what that list is, but there are several other benefits to having them in our back pocket, so to speak. So
I was gonna make a motion, I guess, to join the IRWA thing for $300 a year. Is that what I'm supposed to say?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to join ILRWA, which is the Illinois Rural Water Association. And I think they did a great job working with Denny when they were out here. Do we have any questions or discussion on that? Not, Allison, roll call?
Joe Boyd?
Yes.
Kathy Burks?
Yes.
Steve King?
Yes.
Mark Tati?
Yes.
Lynn Norris?
Yes.
Okay, that carried. Look forward to that. I think, that'll be beneficial to us, especially with, what we're working on now, so. All right, next, Jody, do you have anything else?
No.
All right, Steve, you're up next with public property. Obviously, we don't expect a report from you tonight, but we want to welcome you to the board. We look forward to working with you. And I have a new assignment for you. We have been requested to put up some kind of sign at Veterans Park. We've had cases where different history lists have had referenced some of the monumental type stones that we have up there at Veterans Park. And somebody was driving, trying to find Veterans Park, we didn't have a sign for it or anything. So if you'll work with Denny or look up some kind of park sign that will identify it as Veterans Park, and bring back some price estimates to the board. I think, it'd be good to have a sign up there that identifies the park by name. So if you wanna work on that, you can work with Danny or Sarah or whatever and just kind of see what you can find there with different cost options for signs. Okay. I'm going to bring up a topic now that I deferred earlier, and this is the status of what, of an appointment for a replacement police chief. Dale and Tom will both be retiring probably this year or early next year. And for Dale's position, we definitely need several months, probably 3 to 4 months of training time for replacement to learn all of the management type responsibilities that Dale has to do, all reporting every day and week, and it just takes a lot of time to learn all that. So I have asked Mark Cotty if he would consider becoming the police chief for us and taking over that position. And Mark has agreed to do that, conditional on being able to get a waiver for the training. When you're a policeman and you've been out of the business for 10 years, my understanding is that generally you have to go back through boot camp training, which is 3 months on site at a police academy. And, you know, Mark has done that since he retired a little over 10 years ago. He has spent a lot of time working with police. He's ran training sessions for police. He's worked with the state's attorney. He's been real active with the police work, and I think he will qualify for a waiver, so that he will not have to retake the training academy. But the only way to find out is to appoint him as a police chief, and then we submit his name in for the waiver, and then we can find out whether or not he will qualify for the waiver. So, to get this done, what I am going to do is I've asked Mark to submit a resignation letter effective Thursday. And then I would like for a nomination from one of the trustees to appoint Mark as our future chief of police effective Friday. And if that passes, then we can go ahead and submit his name in for the waiver for the training. If that comes back approved, then Mark, effective sometime in June, would start being the chief of police and would training. And at that time, we would name Dale the assistant chief of police. It would not affect Dale's pay at all. It would just be a change of title because we cannot have 2 police chiefs.
Oh, no.
So this is a little more complex than what we hoped it would be, but this is what we need to do to find out whether or not the waiver is going to be approved. If I was Mark, I would not go through 3 months of boot camp training again. So I understand fully why you would not want to do that, Mark, and I agree with your decision.
Thank you. And are there any questions about this process? It's a strange process because you can't submit the information ahead of time. They won't review it unless you've been appointed. Otherwise, you can just submit the information and go from there. You know, getting the waiver For the basic training, yeah, I mean, that's the only thing that would prevent me from wanting to have the position, because I see you smile, Joe, yeah, I'm not gonna go back. Basic training, yeah, I'm not gonna do it. But there may be other courses they may have you pick up, you know, and that's fine. But we won't know until, as Dave said, that we apply for the waiver. And so that's pretty much the process.
I have a question. Mark, what are your plans, assuming you become the chief of police, since you don't have to do the waiver, if you don't have to, you can get the waiver thingy. What do you plan on doing with the department?
Well, the first project that we have to work on is, as all police departments are going to have to do, is we're going to have to change a lot of our policies and procedures to reflect the changes that are going into effect by the legislature.
Is this a new law?
New laws, I mean, there's a lot of them, but yes, it was one big bill, but in that bill were a lot of requirements, and that's the first big project. Second one is working on finding a replacement for Tom. That will be a difficult task. Tom was a unique individual in a very good way, willing to come and work for us with all those years of experience. Hardworking individual. It will be difficult to find somebody that has that level of experience that'll be willing to come here and work. I mean, it will. We may have to start fresh and hire somebody and put them through the basic academy instead of finding someone with experience. Then it would take more time for me to mentor that person to get them up to speed to where we would want to be. But that's the two biggest challenges right now.
Well, I understand right now, hiring a policeman is difficult across the board. It's difficult across the board, especially in this environment. And I'm very concerned about that. I won't get on my soapbox. How long, do you plan on staying more than, well, my understanding is you're sort of planning on not staying more than 5 years. That's true? Probably?
That would probably be a goal of mine, yes.
Okay, and if you do decide to upgrade the procedures to the current law, if you find a good, is it called a deputy?
Police officer.
Police officer?
Police officer.
Will you plan on training them to replace you, or would you be looking for someone who already had the status? I don't know how else to phrase it.
Well-
Chief, somebody above, nothing against anybody, grunt.
Well, Kathy, the plan would be, my plan, if it were to work out, assuming would be, yes, that when we go to hire this new officer, that is going to be something I'm going to keep in mind, because we want to be able to plan for that. To train that person, groom that person, so that they would have the skills, knowledge, and abilities to step in, if we so desire to make that person a chief to that level. That would be the training level that I would get them up to, so that they would have that. That's a big goal, yes.
That, continuity is what I'm looking at. Though you do come highly recommended.
Well, thank you.
Good questions, Kathy. Do any of the other board members have questions for Mark or for me as far as how this process will work?
Steve, just one question. So if all that falls through on that timeline, are you coming on board in June? Is that when we're starting to double up?
He cannot be a board member and a.
No, I understand that.
Okay.
But everything gets approved, when would be the hire date that we're looking, as a board, when are we looking as?
It was either June 10th or June 17th, whatever that pay period start date was.
So it would be 6 months, because he's here to the end of the month,
Yep.
end of the year.
6 months
for him, but that would not be till paying, because you're here till the end of the year, right?
I'm working to the end of the year, but I have time to use, so September, October would be my time.
Is when you're done?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so he'll have quite a bit of vacation he has to use up, so it would give us probably 3 to 4 months of training time. And so you're aware too, we had thought about starting this 3 months ago, where we would be bringing on a police chief, depending on when Dale's retirement was. And we had budgeted some for having a second police chief person on board 3 months ago to give him plenty of time to train. Well, with Dale's retirement being when it is, it works out, we can do this now, so. All right, can I get a possible motion from the board?
I'll make a motion to appoint Mark Cotty, the chief of police.
Effective June or May, whatever Friday would be, May,
I think it's June
Six.
17th.
it's Friday the 6th.
7.
The 7th, okay. With pay to start at a later time.
With pay to start at later time, yeah.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and second to appoint Mark Cotty as chief of police effective May 7th with payroll starting in June. Do you have any additional questions or discussion? If not, Allison, roll call?
Joe Boyd.
Yes.
Becky Brooks.
Yes.
Steve King.
Yes.
Mark Gotti.
I'll abstain.
Lynn Norris.
Yes.
All right, thank you, everyone. For those of you, Steve, you may not know, Pat McGrath, our attorney, has joined us. Pat, we had a question that came up before you were able to join us. We're looking at purchasing material for reciting the Unified Police Garage that we rent from them.
Okay,
And Lynn's husband has a business that would give us a great price on that. Is that something we need to bid, or can we just go with what his husband can get us?
you're not required to bid, if it's under 25,000, if it's over 25,000, if, you can still waive bidding. So the bidding trigger is 25. The only quirk would be conflict of interest issue. As long as Lynn doesn't have an ownership interest in the business, we're okay. If Lynn has an ownership interest in the business, then we have a conflict of interest issue. So if it's her husband's business, the law doesn't impute conflicts. Her husband's ownership interest doesn't prohibit the village from contracting with the business. So short answer to the first question is probably, I'm guessing the material cost is under 25. Even if it's over, you just have to have a 3/4 vote of the board to waive that. So,
It is under 25, so.
yeah.
We haven't determined that yet. Yeah.
Okay. That was a yes or no question.
Right.
Okay, so if you do not have an ownership interest, will you go ahead and get a price for the materials? And if you do, let us know and we'll get some other pricing.
And Lynn, if you have, outside of the meeting, I'm happy to give you guidance on some places, types of records to look at that might help you guys determine kind of how ownership of the business is structured to the extent that's a question. Because there's, depending on you're an LLC or a corporation or unincorporated, there's different sources where you can take a look at to see kind of what position's been taken on ownership to date. So just let me know if I can help on that.
It was a new, like, this year, he officially took it over. So
Okay.
we had to state what we're doing it, because we haven't had to, and we haven't, there's benefits of other ways of doing it, so we just haven't figured that out yet.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So maybe we will find another company to get the siding for us. Just as easy, we can do that as well.
And we do try and support local businesses whenever we can. Okay, next on the agenda was liquor commissioner, and I have no report on that tonight. So, we have no topics to move into closed session. Does anyone have any additional? Kathy, go
I
ahead.
missed something on my list. The additional bay. For out here. What's our status on that? Have we definitively decided to get estimates to get that done?
I think we're saving money for it still, right? We have a fund for it, and it's nowhere near high enough yet.
Yeah, but it's in the TIF.
Oh.
I'm sorry, Kathy, it's what?
It's in the TIF.
Okay, can you move your mic just a little bit closer? Thank you. My hearing, as you know, my hearing's not very good.
I know. But anyway. like I
So
said,
I asked Sarah today, and it is, the fund is at what,
28,500 or something, I don't know the exact number, but the fund is sitting at 28,000, a little over 20,000.
Kathy's saying we could use TIF money for it, we wouldn't
Yeah.
even use that, I guess.
We can use TIF money, but if we have funds available, we probably should incorporate them also. But we need estimates in order to get the
Danny
ball
did get
rolling.
estimates a number of years ago.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
I don't suppose you're gonna have extra time wandering around to do that.
I have all sorts of time.
Okay, and the board would have to vote, obviously, whether or not we would use TIF money on projects like that.
Right, and like I
Same
said,
thing with the garage.
if, depending upon what happens there, depends upon if, I can call Gwen and have the TIF ordinances set up, but until we get some either span or firm dollar amounts, we can't do the ordinance and vote on it. We can do a consensus vote.
Right.
But that's about it at this point, because we don't know. It's, we have $28,000, if it costs $100,000, it's not really worth a new bay, I'm sorry,
Okay, and you have clarified with Gwen that
Yes,
the village can use TIF
I
money.
need
for-
Danny, check the map. And like I said, and that's one of the reasons, because if I can get Gwen to work on these in advance, any questions that she has can be brought up then, because they changed some of the rules on TIF. The Illinois state something or another sent out an email referencing the law, TIF laws have been changed to a certain degree. The ones that I read were not an influence in our regard, but Murphy's Law says if you don't do it up front, something's gonna come back and bite you.
And there are two more laws being considered right now. One of them is to shorten the TIF period from 23 years to 10 years. I don't recall what the other one is off the top of my head, but
But there were 3 or 4 that I remember seeing
Yeah.
itemized that, like I said, the ones I read did not.
Would that affect our TIF or only new TIFs?
that would just be new TIFs.
Okay.
The other thing,
I should have clarified that thing.
I was wondering, actually, I had read the email, but.
the other thing, when we set this tip up, back in the day when we set it up, we all went through the training and hired people to manage the tip. They also informed us that if you are purchasing equipment, if you're doing things that service basically the whole community, there's a portion of that you can use TIF money for.
Right.
So even if it's not fully within the TIF district, like for example, if you could actually buy a police vehicle and use TIF money to pay for a percentage of it, because part of it is going to patrol that TIF district. And I just think it's something that we need to start utilizing, because I can't remember how many years we're into this, but we're pretty far along in.
14.
Yeah, 14, so yeah, we're getting up there, and we'll really need to heavily, we should spend the money because people pay the taxes and for it. And so it's just being creative on what, I think what we can spend it on. And also to go back to that main philosophy of it, was to attract business.
Right.
And that was the main purpose, to do that, and it worked out great. Dollar General.
Right, because they're mostly in the TIF district too.
Yes.
And that's one of the reasons, business and priority safety actually in the walk between Casey's and Dollar General. Some of that will be TIF because it's in the TIF district. The problem is the part over the township. Yeah, the township is not in the TIF. Which is really sort of too bad.
And the township has no problem with becoming part of the TIF district. I have talked to them. I think Gwen said it cost about $15,000 to $20,000 every time we want to add some ground into the TIF district. So
Yeah,
when
it's
we
sort of
do
defeats
that,
the
we want to add
purpose.
as much as we can. So,
But we have budgeted, as I remember, funds for the sidewalk.
Yeah.
So it's more a matter of getting rolling.
yeah.
Because it
And
needs,
we are gonna, Danny is gonna
Yeah.
start.
because that needs to be done this year. That's just, like I said, that, and I'm sorry, I'm on my soapbox, that just scares the crap out of me. The kids walking up that hill and people coming over the top of it.
Well, it is a safety issue, and I wanted to, since it just jogged my memory, I don't wanna keep this sort of exceptionally long, but we're talking about just the sidewalk, so that's just pedestrian, not, are we also looking at a golf cart way to get there? Okay, because I go to the Dollar General a lot, I think it's a great store, man, they got good prices. I don't wanna do a commercial here, but, when I go there, several times, there are golf carts there. So for them to get there means they had to be.
fly there.
Yeah, they didn't fly there. And I have seen them on Franklin Avenue driving to, and I know they're not supposed to, and it's a safety hazard, but I think it's something that we're gonna have to really start planning for, because people wanna drive their golf carts, or they do to Casey.
I've been told that, having the, golf cart on any part of the county right away is a no.
That's correct, it is a big no, but people are gonna do it, and they are doing it, because they didn't fly there, so.
And that's been discussed a little bit. There's just not a good way to combine it with the sidewalk. We want to get the sidewalk in first. Go from there, so.
And get the crosswalk.
Okay, does anybody have any additional business for the meeting tonight?
Can I ask, Pat a question while we have him on our
Yeah.
time? Pat, McGrath, do you have, are you working on the southeast property that's been a nuisance as far as, continuing, after them as even more a concern? The property that's basically abandoned on, Plain and Chestnut? I believe I sent you an email a month or a month and a half ago. We talked about you sending them a letter or some sort of action. I just was thinking, have you done that? And is that wheels of progress turning?
Yes, that's, Grubel, is that the last name? So we served Mr. Grubel with a dangerous and unsafe building notice. Mr. Grubel had a period of time within which to commence repairs after he was served with his notice. He phoned me and left me a message, and then he sent me written correspondence that he was retaining a contractor to do tree removal and to repair the roof and soffits. His timeframe to have commenced work would have come and darn near passed if it hasn't passed by this point. So that was one item I wanted to touch base with you on. Now's a good time to do it. I don't assume you've seen any progress there. So our next step in our process is to file a dangerous and unsafe building action with the court. The property is very apparently dangerous and unsafe, so we've, per our prior discussion, completed everything on a preliminary basis that needs done before we can file. And I know from our prior conversations, the property owner tends, from at least past experience, to kind of say he's going to take care of it and maybe sometimes do the minimum necessary to try to buy some time. But the lack of progress at this point, despite his representations, would suggest that it's prudent to go forward with the next step. And we'll be working on that here in the next few days so that we can continue the pressure on him to get this taken care of. So short answer is yes, we've done everything we can do so far. Served him with the required notice, given him the required time. Next steps of the lawsuit, we'll be working on that.
I just wanted to make sure, Pat, that you didn't need anything else from me and that you were able to do your part as well as the new things. I think maybe Dale took some pictures of new issues on the East Street property as well, and just to make sure you were aware of everything and doing what you could do on your end to keep things in compliance, and if you needed anything more from us.
Yeah, at this point on the East Street property, we're going forward with another filing for daily fines from last October to present for a variety of issues there, which would be a tremendously substantial fine. So that is moving forward as well. And at this point in time, no, I'm not aware of any action items I need from you or from Dale on that. And things are progressing on our front in due time.
Thanks for your help.
My pleasure. Glad to help out.
Thank you, Pat.
You're welcome.
All right, does anyone have any additional business for the meeting tonight? Allison, do we all have papers, work that we need to sign for you to send in?
Yeah.
Okay, so everybody needs to stop by at Allison's table there before you go home, get that signed, so. Okay, I'll look for a meeting to adjourn. A motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
We have a second.
Second?
Allison, roll call.
Joe Boyd.
Yes.
Kathy Brooks.
Yes.
Steve King.
Yes.
Mark Patty.
Yes.
Lynn Norris.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody. Meeting is adjourned.
Carol. So, I paid everything for another.
Not had any correspondence with anybody.
Right here, we're gonna start that process.
I had a list. I told you. I had a list.
As I said before, I think you want to make sure everyone on your audience that really appreciate it. Yep.
Made tonight.
The governing bodies.
Well, that doesn't mean you're different. It all goes out over the years. I work. I had a few other voices. Maybe I last more of yeah, we need the right position. Yeah, we can get it. Thanks for coming.
So the veterans part in. You got that one? Yeah. I have a few placards that are on different things over there. Maybe you're noticing that we found. So if sometime you want to track me down, I can.
Sorry, but
And there's a break. I don't like it. We can somehow.
Then what's the point of the vaccination?
You know, I don't make the rules. I understand.
Next time, remind me.
I know, my hope is that we'll be in the bridge phase and it's gonna be different rules. I don't know how soon.
Well, I'm just ready to renew all of the, can you clear the entire state? Emergency zone.
We probably have, everybody in here has been vaccinated. We got one tree sign. Yours is over there.
I thought that was a cord. I saw you stepping over.
They need to be put back in there. All right, so it's May the 4th.
Yeah. I just asked you about your socks.
Yes. Did you think there's 2 points that I have? It is May the 4th. So it's appropriate then. Then we all have Star Wars stuff. There's yeah. I like that. I get the new one. Yeah, I mean, we all need to they'll also take I'm pretty sure they can find there's a lot of people that might be good. Good thought. They got the tiny walk over there. Did you get your?
Yeah, but by then, I won't destroy it.
You know what? Right now. Tomorrow. I was gonna take a picture and send it to Tyler in my socks.
I knew that would come back.
Knew that would come back to haunt me sometime, so.
Steve is gonna come up tomorrow, Dave, around 9:30 or 10, and I'll get his email and everything set up for him tomorrow morning. So, get everything I need from
I was
him.
just gonna ask him for
Yeah, I'll get it set up tomorrow, because I now have the access to set those up, which is great.
And I'll show them where his mailbox
And I'll show him where mailbox up there is.
Did we get a picture of him?
We did not.
We did not.
No.
I can do that, yes, absolutely, on my phone.
Okay, we need to ask him to write a little paragraph.
I can do that with him tomorrow.
I can do that with him tomorrow too, if that's okay, just
Yeah.
then. Okay.
Yep, no, I understand. I
She said turn it off. He said up. Oh. Cousin Buddy said
turn.
We know what
We know what she's
Oh, boy.
thinking. Is somebody on tape? No. Story for him.
We're not very
We're not very welcoming people. Yeah, you see that. Printing off.
Cheers on your first.
No, we're gonna just get grab.
Ready? Some people were chilling. Shake them. Maybe they got one. I thought I. The chin was my favorite down there. It's just this constant. Right. Can we just say that? Like, listen. I'm gonna wear it right. Can I say that? No, it's okay. Allison's no fun. And when I go back to where I go.
We really all
I
need.
didn't do trouble if I ever have to go. I know. Because I make lots of mean faces under here.
Right,
I
now with
can,
little
I can
quiet
see your
things.
thoughts through your eyes.
It's true. I try really hard to contain it. I'm not good at that game.
Because whenever I say something to her in the office,